Kristen. Awesome. So we're going to jump into the panel here. So I'm going to bring our panelists on over. Let me do that. Okay, let's see. They should be popping in now. And I got to grab my panelist questions too. Hey, Noelle.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Lesther and Hannah. Hey.
Hey.
Thanks for joining,
Hi.
guys.
Happy to.
So,
No
welcome to the panel. For our audience, this panel will be focusing on basically different roles in the games industry. And I've invited our panelists because they all have different roles, and I think will give good insight to those. Why don't we start with introductions? Why don't we go Noelle, then Lesther, then Hannah?
Cool. My name's Noelle. I'm a lead designer at Workinman, which is a local game company. I also do some freelance contract work for animation on the side.
Hi, I'm Lesther. I co-run a local indie studio here in Rochester, Possum House Games. Yeah, I'm a producer, programmer, and that's hang out in the local rock game dev community.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I am a third-year new media design student, and I am a concept artist slash kind of UI artist for a game called That Jam Goat. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks again, guys. Super excited. So let's jump into questions. Hannah, I want to start with you. You're currently a new media design student at RIT. How did that lead into working on a game? How did this all happen? Like, new media design isn't exactly game specific. So why don't you walk us on that journey?
So that's kind of funny, actually, because I guess new media design didn't really lead me into game design, or like, I guess concept art in this case. New media design was actually more of a compromise for me, because at heart, I think of myself as an illustrator. So new media design was kind of like a way to make myself potentially more versatile, I think. But honestly, I think illustration has always been something that like I wanted to go into. So yeah, I mean, ever since I was like, I could hold a pencil in my hand, I was literally been drawing. So I feel like this is kind of like a logical and like it's a logical kind of like step into concept art, because I mean, I've always been like a super imaginative person, and like I've always been kind of concepting my own world and my own characters when I was little. So like this is kind of, I feel like what would just end up happening.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I ended up here, honestly. It's something that I've always been, it's almost like I've been training to do this my entire life, even before I knew concept artist was even a job. So once I found out it was an actual job, I was like, yes, it's an actual thing you can do. So I was like, I was super excited for that. So yeah, when the opportunity presented itself, I was like, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, and I think just to give a little insight here, you know, working at Magic, when you first, I think you were working not on the GOAT team, but you were helping us out with some graphic design stuff. And then I started seeing like your illustrations, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like she's gonna be on this team. This is gonna be great. Like having all these concept artists. So really, really cool to see that come together. Noelle, you've been doing some freelancing. How does that work, both just as a freelancer, but also when, you know, you do have a full-time gig on the side?
I guess the big difference is like, you know, my day job is constant. It's always there. But the thing is, we do a lot of client work. So my whole job every day is just, what does the client want? What do they need? So, you know, it's up to them what characters are in the game. It's up to them what the game actually is. It's all about pleasing them. So we'll do multiple rounds of feedback, you know, and then in comparison to that, the side work that I do for freelancing is usually on indie games. So the client there is just us. Like, we're deciding what we think looks best in the game. And another difference is, during the day job, I do everything. I do UI design, I do character design, I do animation. And then with the indie game, which is kind of opposite from what I've been hearing, but I'm just animation. There's a different person for UI. There's a different person for character design, for backgrounds. So they're really quite different.
Yeah, and something I've often something I remember seeing you actually working with things like spine. Like how, if I was somebody who was into illustration but haven't really used something like a tool like spine that kind of like is this weird middle ground with animation and illustration, like how does that all come together? How does that work?
Well, I mean, Spine uses Photoshop, which is kind of handy. So you do all of your drawing in Photoshop or some other, art program. And then you export all of your pieces. So you're kind of like thinking about it. Spine is like a skeleton animation software. So you're sort of thinking about like, okay, here's my hand, here's my forearm, here's my head. You separate like all the mouth pieces out. And then you put it all in Spine, and it's kind of neat because it's almost like a paper doll. Like you just drag the pieces around and you can see how they animate. It's actually, I used to do frame by frame animation, which I think is a little bit harder, but it's easier to play with Spine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, when I first saw it, it seemed like a good, okay, I can draw still frames or, single frames. This seems like a way to kind of like get into animation in a little bit of a different way. Also, it just looks really cool.
Yeah, and Spine's super friendly. They have so many tutorials online, and you can download like the free trial version too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. Lesther, what led you to developing games? You're a resident developer code person for today. Like, how did you get into all this stuff?
Well, as you mentioned, I did graduate as a software engineer, so no background in games in particular, but I've been playing games all my life. And eventually I was curious as to what I can do using my background as a software engineer to make games. So I went through the journey of learning how to code stuff up in games, learning all that game development concepts, the game loop. And then eventually joined up with the local community, find out that there's a whole group of people who are doing the same thing, having a good time. Funny enough, I had to fly halfway across the country, or the other side of the country, to GDC to find out that ROC Game Fest was available here. But that aside, I really wanted to try my hand using my software engineering talents to create the experiences that I've had growing up all this time. So that's pretty much what drove me. Games are fun. I know code stuffs. I use them to make it.
Which GDC did you end up at? I didn't know that.
2018.
Okay.
Yeah, I was walking around and I saw an RT booth, and I was like, huh, that's local to me.
Yeah.
Let me go see what they're showing there. And I got talking to some of the people there and found out about the RGD community. And I was like, huh, interesting.
It's funny because I think in some of our Buffalo people were part of the event today. I was at 2018 at that booth as with RIT, but we ran into them unexpected. It seems it's funny, like, as game developers are so sometimes busy and in our little bubbles that we don't know what's happening right next door until we fly across the country.
Yep. Yep. Exactly what happened to me.
Awesome. Hannah, kicking it back to you. Let's say I'm a student who's interested in either developing games or working on them in any context. What advice would you give them? What kind of wayfinding would you direct them towards? What advice would you have?
Oh man. All right. That's so weird because I never actually thought of myself as being in that position to tell other people what to do, but I'll do my best. So at least I can talk from a concept art perspective, or an artist perspective, because I don't really know code stuff like Lesther. But I guess I feel like this is something that you kind of have to love, or at least really like, because it's weird because creativity I feel is highly correlated with passion, and if you're not passionate, a lot of times I feel there's a good chance that it'll show in your work. And I mean, my job was like literally just like illustrating, like every time, like all the hours that I'm like clocked in, I'm basically just illustrating. So it's really something that you kind of like live and breathe a little bit, which is not a bad thing, because I really like my job. But I think just like, you know, this is something that you kind of have to want. And then I think in saying that, like looking at other professional like portfolios, at least for me, helped a lot, because now I know what they're doing and like how they're doing it, and like watching tutorials, that's all really helpful. Because I didn't actually have any like official like game design experience at all coming into my job right now. So this is all like super new to me. So what actually what I submitted in my portfolio itself was a lot of like personal projects. So personal projects will never hurt. There's only good that can come out of that, especially when you don't actually have like official experience. So it's just kind of like showing you what you're good at and like what you want to do, and like, you know, how you're kind of like aiming to achieve that. So a lot of personal projects are good, because that's pretty much all I had to offer.
Right.
So yeah, I would like work on your own time, like do things because you like to do them, you know, and then that'll show, I think. So that's pretty much my path. That's what I did. And then shoot your shot, you know, you gotta do it. You gotta like, at least even if you don't think you'll make it, you know, like you won't make it if you never actually apply. So just do it.
Yeah.
You never know, they might honestly like call you back and be like, hey, let's have an interview or something. So like if you really want your foot in the game, like just send your portfolio, just do it.
Cool. And
So, yeah.
you know, as a little follow-up question, you know, you talk about personal projects and having those, you know, something I see, because we have a Discord for the That Damn Goat, the game you're working on. As part of the concept team, you guys post tons of drawings, like even just ideas that maybe will make it into the game, maybe not. Like, how do you deal with that kind of, okay, I'm doing 20 sketches today and who knows if any of them will like land or end up in the game? Like, how do you kind of cope with making that much art, I guess?
Like I said, it's something that I love to do. It's something that I like to do. So like it's not, you kind of have to like let go of the feeling that like this has to work, like this, like I'm making something that like this needs to work, this has to be in the game. Like there's no like really final, there's no way to tell what design is going to be like the final design. So you kind of have to let go of that, like I'm making the perfect design, because a lot of times it won't be. It might not even be considered. So like you just kind of have to make it, because you want to do it, and this is like what you're hired for. And like it's like it can be hard at first to kind of be like, oh, what, you didn't even look at this design, like I thought it was good, and like, yeah, maybe you think it's good, but it might not be the right fit for the project as a whole. So I mean, you just kind of throw what you got out there and see what lands, basically.
Yeah, I know, speaking as a graphic designer who doesn't have great illustration skills, you know, the joke is always like graphic designers always want to be illustrators. Like I'll just browse through all those sketches and I'm just like, oh my gosh, so many of these are so good. But you know, that's the whole concepting idea, right? You're just going and iterating. So awesome, great input. Lesther, you're one half of a local indie studio. How does that work? What does that look like? And what advice would you have to anybody who would like to pursue that?
So yeah, my partner, Denny, you guys saw him earlier with Shot in the Dark. He and I started working together, met through ROC Game Dev, did a couple of jams together, and just kind of kept working together. So we formed Possum House, or decided to go into it together. Essentially, it would be kind of what you would imagine working collaboratively on any other project would kind of extend to, right? Outside of just making the game, there's a lot of things that go into running the studio. So in the same way, we kind of split the art and programming duties. I know he loves to do programming, and I'm a master at art, as he is. We split the overarching tasks and responsibilities for kind of maintaining everything, social engagement, putting things on Steam, on Itch, getting those pages up and running, anything public-facing, website developments. We split those as best we can and share when it's applicable. I don't contribute much to the art, as you would imagine, but I do try to help out here and there with some pixel or rearrangement. I'll say I'm not a pixel artist, but a rearranger. For anyone who's looking to try to do that, I would advise just to be patient. You don't go from making a cool game to being what you see online, like for using another studio as reference or just inspiration, people you like to follow. You don't get there quickly. You don't get there easily. It's a journey. It's a fun one. Definitely, if that's something you're looking forward to doing or planning on doing, do a little bit of research, take your time, do some planning. No need to rush to get to that end point, however you envision it, and enjoy it. It's you're making games, you're running a studio. It's fun.
Right.
Take a step back and remember that every once in a while.
A little bit of perspective, right?
Yeah.
Helps. I feel like Possum House is, and this is maybe a little bit of my opinion, you guys have become like game jam like heavy hitters. Like I just feel like when there's a game jam, you're jumping in and you're doing some really cool stuff. What's your guys' approach to game jams? What's your mentality around it?
So I think one of the reasons for that is that's kind of how we got started. It was one of the game jams hosted by ROC Game Dev back in 2018 when we first worked together, and another one hosted by Magic, the Wild Magic game jam back in October. We worked together really well, and we kind of meshed with our designs, our implementation, and all that. We're really excited to play with really small ideas, small concepts, and see how far we can take them. As Jenny mentioned this earlier, actually, we shot in the dark, right? We really like that jam energy. We get a lot out of it. It's actually part of our normal prototyping process. We have an idea, we sit down, schedule some time, and do a jam. Sometimes we host the jam publicly, have other people come in and hang out. We do host a weekly co-working channel on our Discord that's available for anyone to join. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and I think your what is it called? The Thursday night campfire?
Fireside chat.
Fireside chat, thank you. Such a cool thing. Like, I mean, at ROC Game Dev, we have our monthly co-working thing. But every Thursday, you guys have your chat, and especially right now, you have in voice, you chat around, you share your screen, that sort of thing. Really cool to see that kind of community build up around your studio, and like a great idea as far as building a community around your studio. Giving people that direct access to you guys. So really cool stuff.
We have an open office kind of mentality. It's like, we're working on games, you're working on games, cool,
right.
Come in and hang out.
Yep.
Or you want to play games, go ahead. We're here.
Definitely. Awesome. Noelle, I'm gonna deviate from script a little bit here. Why don't you talk a little bit about like some of your your journey into games and how that all started?
Sure. I actually went to RIT for animation, and throughout that whole program, I thought I was going to end up in TV or film. So, for anyone who wants to get into games and you're studying art, just keep your mind open. You never know what's going to pop up, which is kind of what happened to me. I graduated, found out there was a local game studio. I applied and got in, and even though I went to school for animation, I learned a lot of software stuff on the job, because you have to learn the software that your company's using, the software that maybe the client wants you to use. So, you really learn 3 times as much, I think,
right.
as you learn in school, actually doing what you're going to be doing for games.
Yeah. Super true. And to your first point too, my first degree was in psychology. Like, you never know where these paths kind of lead you to. But yeah, working in games, I feel like more than getting good at, a specific program like Maya or something, you just get good at learning new programs, because you're always having to use something new, and something breaks halfway through and you have to go learn something new to fix it.
Yeah. And especially with working with a small studio, you sort of become like a jack of all trades. Like, okay, I can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. You don't really get a ton of time to like master something. And if you do, that's such an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, it's a little, especially even in a smaller city like Rochester, it's hard to specialize in something very specific. So if you end up kind of wearing many hats, it definitely helps. Cool. So I got a question for all of you. And feel free to, whoever wants to jump in and answer, but what are your hopes for the future of games? Both, think as big as AAA games, think as small as, one-person teams, or just games that you want to play, that sort of thing. What are your hopes for the future?
Don't all volunteer at once.
I can go first, I guess. I think so. As an animator, I really love traditional like frame drawn stuff, and like Spirit Fair just came out not too long ago, I guess in the fall. I don't know. Time doesn't exist anymore, but that was just so much beautiful hand-drawn animation and like watercolor backgrounds and stuff like that. I would love to see more games like that.
Right.
I just want to see more artistic exploration and, just more vivid stuff like that. I think it's starting to happen more now, which is really exciting. And I just want to keep seeing more of it.
Agreed. Hannah, Lesther?
I could add to that. Well, I mean, like Noelle, I feel like I'd like to see more artistic games as well, because those just like, I mean, I also have a background in just like illustration, so like I totally get where she's coming from. I feel like I don't know enough maybe about the whole gaming industry yet, just because like I'm sort of fairly new, but I feel like there's like potential for like procedural generation. Like, because I recently played the game Breath of the Wild, and it's such a humongous game.
Right.
You really like scale it up, and like I don't know. It's just like I feel like procedural generation like could really work in games where they get like really big and like mix and match different like I don't know like creatures. Like I think in No Man's Sky kind of does that. So like I feel like there's like a lot of potential there for like creating different kinds of quests and keeping things interesting, or different kinds of bosses or like things like that. Especially when the games get bigger and bigger. So like I don't know. I'd like to see what happens with that. I feel like it's an interesting area. So we'll see.
Yeah, as somebody who has no idea how it works and it just seems like witchcraft, I'm like, more of it, more please.
Yeah, just like there's so much potential.
I think it's fascinating. I want it from the tech perspective as well. I haven't dived too much into Proc Gen myself, but I would love to see more of that. Games like Minecraft, Terraria, Starbound, those all utilize some kind of Proc Gen in some way, shape, or form. But to add a bit to that, I'd like to see games to get weirder, smaller and weirder.
Yes.
I find that the greater limitations you have, the weirder the content, and this is more interesting. It's like, holy crap, never would have thought of that being something I can do or play or make or anything like that. It's like, that's just something that's something I enjoy, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. When I first discovered itch.io, I felt like it was like a cavern of like experimental weirdness. I'm like, oh, anybody can put something up here, and there's all these weird, interesting games exploring things I never thought of. Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
We actually got a question in a chat from Lady Dorquette. They say, what are your go-to games for unwinding or inspiration? Games that are chicken noodle soup for your soul. So unwinding games.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. Do nothing but just wander.
It's such a relaxing game. Like, I don't know, like the whole like ambience of it. I don't know. You just want to just walk around forever.
Or sandbox games as well. I guess Breath of the Wild could be in some way open worldish, but sandbox games. Minecraft, Terraria, Starbound. Create, do whatever.
Right. Return to them every couple months. Awesome.
Yeah, I haven't had a ton of time lately, so Animal Crossing kind of falls into that, because you can just hop in and play for a little bit. Or like any indie game that you can complete in like 2 to 3 hours, just like sit down for an evening and just totally sink into it. That's good.
Yeah, no, I think a while ago you turned me on a game, Islands. Is that what it was called?
Oh, Islanders.
Islanders. Yeah. That was one for me for a while. It was just very peaceful and serene, and
the music's really nice too, which is always good.
Yeah, definitely cool. Cool. I guess that kind of ties into my last question is, are there any games you've been playing lately or games you want people to be aware of? And, you know, there's been a few mentions. Spirit Fair is a good one. But yeah, what are you playing lately, or what would you want people to be aware of as far as games?
I've been playing After Party. It came across, it looked beautiful, the concept was cool. The quick synopsis is you're playing as a couple of best buds who have died. I still don't know why, but the only way out or come back to life is to out party the King of Hell. I thought that was really interesting, and I'm knee deep in it now.
Nice. Cool.
I guess I can go next. I mean, personally, again, like I played Breath of the Wild recently, but I also got Age of Calamity, so I'm kind of on the Zelda bandwagon now.
It's a good one.
No going back. But I don't know. I don't have this game, but when I was at my friend's house, I gave her this game, which I kind of tested out. But it's called Baba Is You.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's so cute. Like, I don't even know what Baba is, but it's so cute. It's like a puzzle game, and I think puzzle games are really interesting. Like, that one is kind of almost like coding, almost like has like kind of that structure. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's kind of like it's a logic puzzle game. So but that's like it's a good fun game where you just kind of like focus on it and just be like, let me just like beat all these levels.
Yeah, it's from what I've seen, it's almost like you have to create the answers or something. I might be getting that wrong, but it looked interesting.
There's like words like in blocks, and you have to like rearrange these words to like make the rules of the game so that like you win.
Yes.
So that's another like interesting game that I came across.
There's your weird game, Lesther. That's a weird game.
Yeah. I played it.
You.
It's great. Love it.
Awesome.
I've got Little Nightmares 2 on the docket, which is also kind of a weird game. A little cute, but also very horrific indie game. And then, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I've also been playing the game that I'm working on for freelance a lot, which I think is also a good note. If you're making a game, just play it all the time.
Very true. Very true. I've somehow not played or been aware of the Little Nightmare games. What's the concept of those? I mean, you said cute and horrific, and I'm kind of intrigued.
Yeah, you play as like well, the first one's easier to describe because I've actually played through the whole thing, so I'll do that one. You play as like a small little character, and she's trying to make her way out of this kind of like a dungeon in a ship.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know, there's multiple levels, like where if they catch you, they're gonna eat you, or if they catch you, they turn you into something. It's just like a little escape route game, and it's a little puzzly because you have to find like the key to the door and stuff like that. It's really good.
Cool. I'll have to check it out. I've seen screenshots, and it looks very well done and very pretty. If you could say,
yes,
a horrific game looks pretty.
It does. The lighting is ridiculously beautiful for a horror game. Again, but
awesome, cool. So we got some good comments. A lot of Zelda fans in the chat. Some people giving warnings of scary moments in the Little Nightmares trailer. But that's it for the panel. Thanks again, guys, for being here. Any farewell comments, any well wishes, anything like that you want to leave us with before we head out?
Everyone seems to be doing a great job. Everything I've been seeing is pretty cool. I'm really excited to play some of them. Excited to see more. Stay in touch, join communities, interact more with each other.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, the three of you are pretty active in the local community and have, definitely engaged with it. So that's always fun to see. And it's always fun to see what people are working on. So definitely appreciate that. Cool. Well, thanks again, guys, Noelle, Lesther, and Hannah for being here. Very much so appreciate it. But that'll wrap our panel. So at this point, we're going to break for, I'm going to say 10 minutes, but we'll see how long we go. So I'm going to kick it back to the starting soon screen, and we'll let you guys know when we come back, hopefully 10 minutes. And Kristen will bring us back and go to the second round of developers. So thanks, everybody. Sit tight. go hydrate, go have a snack, that sort of thing, and we'll be back soon.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.